Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Len Testa, and this is our show for the week of Schmurz Day, June 28th, 2021. On the show today, news, listener questions, and in our main segment, Jim gives us part 3 of the history of the Toy Story Mania attraction. Let's get started by bringing in the man who says that any salad can be a Caesar salad if you stab it often enough. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
Okay, why is it if you held a gun to my head, I would not eat an anchovy? But on the other hand, anchovy paste, Caesar salad, I'm perfectly fine with. That's a contradiction, right?
I actually got used to it when I was researching the Britain's Best Day Out book that I wrote with Bob a few years ago, about 10 years ago. And when I was at Alton Towers, one of the few things that I could get in the middle of the day to eat in the hotel was a Caesar salad with anchovies. And I was so hungry at the time that I think I was training for a marathon too. So I was like, every calorie counts.
Okay.
That I would actually eat the anchovies, and now I'm used to it. Yeah, but it's definitely an acquired taste.
Okay. Strange thing is, if I was given the opportunity to be out in California and do the Grunion Run thing, I'm there. I'd have handfuls of little fish. I just wouldn't know what to do with them.
Exactly. I don't know. All right, Jim, let's do a quick shout out to subscribers over at DisneyDish.bandcamp.com. Thanks to new subscribers Ryan Shrout, Nate Becker, Mickey G66, and Lizanne Piling, and longtime subscribers Sean Moore 33, Ian Tewksbury, Mark Fluff Daddy Jackson, and Matt 67 Martin. Jim, we all know that Disney's Fort Wilderness Campground used to have an actual steam train running through it. But did you know that these are the folks who tried to recreate an actual buffalo stampede as part of Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary plans? Then they found out how delicate a Winnebago actually is, and that's why bison burgers are on special at Geyser Point from now until Christmas. True story, Jim. True story.
Oh, that sounds like it would be hard to get out of the grill.
Actually, they do have bison burger there. It's not bad.
Okay.
I just like the phrase, how delicate a Winnebago really is. I think that's
I have to admit,
a nice turn of phrase right there.
I enjoy that myself. So,
all right, Jim, let's do the news. Folks, the Disney Dish News is brought to you by Storybook Destinations, trusted travel partner of the Disney Dish podcast. For a worry-free travel experience every time, book online at StorybookDestinations.com. All right, Jim, the big news, I think, coming out this week was the Disney Enchantment projection show coming to the Magic Kingdom. So I got to give credit to Mike over at blogmickey.com, who had this first over a month ago. Not only is this a new fireworks show, but it's bringing projection technology down Main Street. So, and we sort of saw a preview of this with Disneyland Forever.
We did. What do
you think?
I always enjoyed that show. I mean, it was fascinating to stand in the street there on Main Street and have a show play out the entire length of the street.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the COVID restrictions will be well in the background at that point, because a lot of people are going to want to standing in the street to see this one.
I think this is good for a couple of reasons. One is the castle projection show works best if you're right in front of the castle. But obviously, there's a limit to the number of people who can be right in front of the castle. By bringing it down Main Street, you get many more people who can have a good look at projection technology. The other thing I've heard here, Jim, is seasonal overlays, like the Osborne Family Spectacle of Lights. Have you seen... damn it. Okay, there was test footage. Maybe we're not supposed to see it. And maybe I'm supposed to talk about it. So just everyone forget that I said anything about it. Anyway.
Okay.
But seasonal overlays, Jim, it's a possibility. It could happen. Who knows?
Whenever they say seasonal overlays, I suddenly picture Charlie Brown standing in front of Lucy with the football. This has been talked about so many times.
I know, but this gives them a package that they could load and unload. I mean, with the projection show, you could turn that on and off within the week between Halloween and the Christmas show and the Christmas party starting, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and you could enhance parades. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff that you can do. I think it's a fantastic addition, and you got to give Disney credit for keeping this reasonably quiet.
I agree. But at the same time, I am just going to look under Bob Chapek's new management team for the name Lucy Van Pelt. I'm just saying.
All right, Jim, here's my question for you, though. Wishes, the show prior to Happily Ever After, ran 14 years, 2003 to 2017. Happily runs 4 years with a year off. Is there a story there?
Well, again, to circle back to Mr. Chapek, this is the guy who 2018 merged Disney Consumer Products with Disney Parks and Resorts to get our Disney Parks Experience and Products division. Bob wants the show that's in the nighttime Kiss Goodnight show in the most popular park in Florida to be more reflective of today's Disney company as opposed to, a show that was put together 4 years ago.
Wow. I mean, Illuminations ran what, 20 years, something like that, depending on its various incarnations. Phantasmic has been running since, I believe, the Pleistocene era. I'm not entirely sure. I have to go back and look at the rock strata that they carved the seats out of, but
that would explain the cave painting sequence. Okay, yes, all right,
exactly, all right. But for a show to run 4 years with a year off because of COVID, that just seems like there's something there, right? Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's counter to what Disney has done for the past 2 decades, but let's also be honest, you're kind of looking over your shoulder at what those other guys down the street are doing, and maybe just sort of like, let's get a new show in here, okay?
All right, so we'll see what happens there. I'm super excited. And that begins October 1st, right?
Yep.
Also, we got this week confirmation that Harmonious begins October 1st. We've kind of known this for years that that October 1st would be the date. It's nice to hear it though. My thing now is there's so much stuff planned for October 1st. Jim, would you put the over/under date on which Disney raises ticket prices at before or after October 1st?
It'll be painfully close, but it'll be before.
Yeah, I'm thinking like September 30th.
Yeah.
The other thing that Disney mentioned that we were getting for the 50th, a 4-park lighting package called Beacons of Light. And that was interesting because it's separate than the stuff that we're getting for Harmonious or for the new Magic Kingdom show. So we've got sparkles of pixie dust at Cinderella Castle in the Magic Kingdom. We've got lights now on Spaceship Earth in Epcot. We've got something at Tower of Terror in Hollywood Studios. And we've got a new lighting package for Tree of Life at Animal Kingdom.
You did see the announcement yesterday about the Tower of Terror movie that Scarlett Johansson is producing with Disney?
I saw that. She's producing. Is she going to be in it?
That's up for negotiation. The other thing that's frankly interesting about this project, script is written by Josh Cooley, who was the director of Toy Story 4 for Pixar.
I saw that. Yeah.
I don't know what that means further on down the line when it comes to overlays and that sort of thing. I mean, I have heard some interesting things about perhaps Disney is getting tired of paying CBS for the rights to use Twilight Zone. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here.
So Disney's already done a Tower of Terror movie, right? Steve Guttenberg's magnum opus. But is this going to be a reboot of that, or is this a completely new thing?
Completely new thing.
Okay.
In talking with folks at the studio, it wasn't a question of like the Jungle Cruise, Dwayne Johnson, Emily Blunt film that's coming out at the end of July. They legitimately see that as their next Pirates. This, on the other hand, is kind of a way to keep Scarlett Johansson under the Disney umbrella.
Right.
And at the same time, that this is a company that really likes to do theme park based things and redos. In fact, just yesterday, the live action Snow White that's coming. It's like, okay, remember when they used to make original movies? So
I'm not going to comment on that because I just had a conversation with someone at Pixar.
Okay.
Jim, speaking of the Animal Kingdom, how'd you like that for a segue, by the way? Speaking of the Animal Kingdom, Disney also announced a new show called Kite Tales. So it looks like those Epcot Forever jet skis, which can't be running because of the Harmonious barges. Looks like those are zipping over to the Animal Kingdom.
That they are. And they've talked about how this is a kite-based show, but it's a sit-down attraction. It's going to be in the Discovery River Amphitheater, which was built for Rivers of Light.
Yep.
And it's going to happen during the day. So
that's what I thought. Like, okay, there's no shade. It's concrete. It's Florida. Yep. It's summer. Honest to God, I think here's what they should do. They should carve small furrows into the concrete seats and then have George Foreman Grill sponsor Disney Kite Tales. Is anyone from Disney listening when I talk on the show?
I've been in there when I saw Rivers of Light, and it was after dark, and those things were still hot from the heat of the day.
Oh
And
yeah.
just the idea of going there at, say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. My understanding that they're going to do the show, the plan is at least twice a day, maybe three
Oh, I
times a
didn't know that.
day.
Okay, I figured it was a couple times a day. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, wonderful kites and lots of activity out in the water and that sort of thing, but still getting people to show up early and then sit down there waiting for the show to begin.
Yeah. It could be their way of selling more drinks, more sodas.
Or Bactine,
Exactly.
Yeah.
The sound that jet skis make though might be a little intrusive in that particular. I don't know how that's going to go over with sort of the background music of Asia. It's not very Zen meditation.
Yeah. We're going to have to see what happens there.
All right, Jim, let's talk about the rope drop procedure, which has changed yet again at the Magic Kingdom. So something interesting has been happening at the Magic Kingdom this week. Last week, we talked about how at Epcot, they had started holding people in Future World Plaza until 30 minutes before the park had opened and then releasing everyone in there. What's the interesting thing that's happened at the Magic Kingdom this week is that they're holding everyone in the central hub and along Main Street until exactly park opening. So if the park opens at 8, they release you at 8 o'clock instead of 7:30 to get on the rides. And that's new. That is the old rope drop process.
Yeah.
Right? We're not getting the park early at all.
So what is that about?
I think again, so imagine you're an offsite guest once early theme park entry begins. This will be your process. So it could be that they're testing that too.
Okay. Well, that runs in parallel to what you were saying just on the last show about Epcot. So interesting. Okay.
Also, we did some rider counts over at Rise of the Resistance. So it looks like it's running at around pre-pandemic levels of operation right now. We counted around 1,535 people per hour going through the ride. It's about 15 boarding groups an hour too. So roughly 100 people per boarding group. And maybe half that in Disneyland because it looks like they're getting through twice the number of boarding groups. So that's super interesting. Also, while we were in the parks, we noticed that FastPass kiosks have been uncovered in the Magic Kingdom. And our friend Diane writes in that her previously booked FastPasses have been redisplaying in her My Disney Experience account.
Ooh,
That's
okay.
Interesting. Also, if here's another clue. If you look at the latest code within the MDE, there's this thing called Disney Access Plus, which might be the new name of the thing that replaces FastPass Plus. So I don't think Disney's gonna call in Walt Disney World. I'm not entirely sure that they're gonna call the paid version of FastPass Plus because people will immediately say, "Why are you charging for something that was once free? Are you Peloton? No, you are not." Thank you for that.
Okay.
Look at me, just up on the current news. Anyway,
there we go.
So I think they're going to say Disney Access Plus, and that might be the overarching name of the thing. We'll see.
Okay. Well, thanks to Diane for sharing that info.
Last bit of news, and I forgot to mention this last week. The park's best hot dogs have returned to Liberty Square in the Magic Kingdom. You can now buy them at a Liberty Square market. They're not the grilled hot dogs that they used to be, but they are encased in a steam bun. They're more like a ballpark hot dog. They're way better than what you used to be able to get at Casey's Corner when it was open. So, and if any medical professionals want to turn their heads away right now, I will tell you, Jim, that my first lunch there was hot dog with mustard, Mickey pretzel with cheese, and I took the extra cheese and I put it on the hot dog, and I had a Coke. This part of the news segment is brought to you by Antacids. By Prilosec.
There we go. Holy cow. Okay. I can hear the arteries hardening from here, Len.
It's amazing that the number of gym membership emails that I get as soon as this show is over every Monday. Anyway.
Go figure.
All right, folks. That's going to do it for the news. Next week, we're going to talk about the new design of the contemporary rooms, which just came out, but Jim and I haven't had time to look at it. So let's move on to listener questions real quick. This one from Kelly. A friend just sent me a text with the attached picture showing an unmarked bus that picked them up from Epcot to head back to the contemporary. The driver told him this is a courtesy VIP coach. My friend described it as straight up like a Greyhound. I find it pretty unlikely that Disney ran out of buses. Maybe they ran out of drivers. Interesting stuff for sure. Also, my friend did verify that she arrived back at the contemporary and was not driven to her death in a strange unmarked bus. All right, well, that's a win. So here's the thing, Jim. They are definitely not out of buses. And to Kelly's suspicion, they're out of bus
Mhm.
drivers. I think we've
Yeah.
talked about this. Either you and I have talked about it. I don't know if it was on the
Mhm.
show or not, but they're importing bus drivers from out of state now and putting them up on property just to have them drive around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's getting staffing up in the Central Florida market is a challenge.
yeah,
And the fact that they have to reach out of state for bus drivers right
yep.
now, but that's the reality of the situation right now.
Yeah, I mean, lots of places need bus drivers. I mean, imagine like regular transportation companies need bus drivers too, and all the the private events that are happening around the country again now they're looking for bus
Yeah,
drivers as well. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of competition. Yeah.
absolutely.
Here's an email from Todd who says, my daughter's a cast member at the studios. She's been with Disney for 3 years now. She's been telling me about a dilemma that all of the frontline cast are worrying about. With the real estate craziness going on in Florida, many cast members that are renting are being notified that there'll be rent increases upon lease renewal. My daughter's rent will be going up $300 per month. She lives about 10 miles from the Magic Kingdom. I've been tracking rent on Zillow and have seen that one-bedroom apartments that were renting for $1,100 per month in April are now $1,500 per month. My question is this: what happens to the frontline cast members who won't qualify because of their income to get in the apartments? Will Disney have trouble getting people to come in as cast members if they can't afford housing? My daughter has as many roommates as her lease already allows to lower the costs, but now it's getting really tight. Yeah, so this is super interesting, and this I think
Mhm.
is part of the bigger problem. So I did some research. I went back and forth with Todd on this, but yeah, one of the big problems that you have, right, is
Mhm.
these cast members get priced out of housing around Lake Buena Vista,
Mhm.
right? And they have to drive farther and farther out. Are you going to drive, an hour each way for a $14 an hour job when there are other
Mhm.
jobs available? I think this is part of the problem that Disney's facing. So I actually did some research on this. And Todd's daughter's actually in a 3-bedroom apartment, but I was looking at 2-bedroom apartments just to
Mhm.
sort of that was sort of like the middle sweet spot between 1 bedroom and 3 bedroom. So according to Zillow in Orlando, for 2 bedroom, 2 bath apartments, there are currently 40 of them available at $1,400 or less per month. And you're looking at a 40-minute to an hour drive each way. That tells you how tight the apartment market is in Central Florida right now. In fact, there are only 85 open apartments at $1,600 or less. And some of those are in East Kissimmee. Now, you might say, she's one person, 85 is plenty of supply. But
Mhm.
remember, Disney World employs tens of thousands of people. So
Yeah.
85 apartments is basically zero, right?
Mhm.
You really have to get to around $2,100 per month
Mhm.
to where you have substantial availability. And even if you split 4 ways, so a 2 bedroom, that means that you're sharing a bedroom with someone, which
Mhm.
I'm not sure that many 23-year-olds want to do that, but okay, fair enough.
Okay.
That's
Mhm.
still $550 a month at $14 an hour. So if you're making $14 an hour at Disney, I actually did the math, it's
Mhm.
$29,000 a year after federal taxes, Social Security, and Medicare. You're bringing home around $2,000 per month, right? So that almost certainly rules you out of having your own 1 bedroom apartment anywhere around Lake Buena Vista, because those things are running $1,300 per month, and no one's going to be spending 65% of their take home income on housing. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
let's say you've got a
absolutely.
couple of roommates. After rent, you're making $2,000 per month. After
Mhm.
rent at $550 a month, you're left with $1,450 per month. The
Mhm.
good news is, with federal subsidies and ACA Bronze insurance plan, is free, but then you still have to worry about like things like transportation, insurance, gas, and whatnot. So and I didn't know this. Did you know that the average cost of a used car in the United States is not $25,000? $25,000 for a used car.
So much of the fleet disappeared. I remember the financial correction of 2008 where they were buying older cars and effectually cubing them, crushing them
Yep. Yeah.
just
This is
to
part of the
increase.
part of the buyback. Yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
those cars would be 13, 14 years old now at
No,
least,
no, no.
right?
I get that.
But those are used cars. They're probably 20 years old at that point. Yeah.
But yeah, the ripple effect that caused,
Yeah.
we're still feeling today. So,
Also, the average age of a used car is now 12 years old, which is kind of interesting. So I did some math here. I checked with a couple of places and I looked at Geico. So let's say
mhm,
Todd's daughter got her $25,000 used car, but got it at 40% off. Her
mhm,
monthly payment is still $270 per month, assuming no down payment. So that means she has just under $1,200 left. $80 of that goes to car insurance, assuming she has no tickets. Good luck
mhm,
with that. So she's down to $1,100 per month. Utilities and whatnot are probably another $100 per month. So she's down to $1,000, or basically half of her income left, and she hasn't bought food yet. So yeah, this is how, Jim. This is how
mhm,
people can barely scrape by
mhm.
on $14 an hour in Central Florida, and you'd have to have 3 roommates in a 2-bedroom house.
I'm old enough to remember when you'd go to the parks and all of the positions were filled by 40-hour-a-week employees who'd
Yeah.
worked for Disney for decades and loved their job because it had the best benefits and it paid the best in the area. And it
Mhm.
just sort of like, something's got to be done to turn this around.
Well, this is why it's interesting. Universal's paying $1 an hour more, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
works out to be $2,000 a year, around $160, a month more. You think about that though. When you've got after food, when you've got around $500 or $600 a month left, an extra $160
Mm-hmm.
seems like a really good deal. I can understand that. Yeah.
Well, and let's also remember that Universal Orlando is actually just in April of this year. They picked the developer for their affordable housing complex, the thing that they're basically building across from Epic Universe. So
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's
yeah,
going to bring a ton of jobs too.
yeah. I think Disney's got to be casting an eye to what's going on down the road between the pay thing and the housing thing, and think, okay,
Yeah. What do we have to do here? They are offering $1,000 signing bonuses now for kitchen staff. Have you seen that?
yes, yes, but that also comes on the back of guests when they go to the theme park or stay at the resorts. They like to eat, go
Yeah.
figure. So,
Yeah. And Universal's running into some issues there too with 40-minute waits for pretzels and whatnot. Anyway,
oh, no doubt.
our next email is from Greg in the UK. It says, we, my wife and two children, are planning a California road trip next summer in August of 2022 with the main purpose visiting relatives and doing some sightseeing. We're looking to visit Disneyland for 2 days at the end of the trip, which will be a surprise for the children. At that point, our children will be 8, Evie, and nearly 5, Henry. I've been to Disneyland twice, 2004 and 2013, and California Adventure once, 2013, but both as an adult without children. So my first question is, do you think in late August we'll be able to have a fulfilling experience in the parks in 2 days? I would say yes. I think you could do almost all of DCA in
Mm-hmm.
one day, and you could definitely do the Disneyland highlights
Mm-hmm.
in one
Mm-hmm.
day. And there I would concentrate sort of on the classic attractions, Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean, the Matterhorn, It's a Small World, things like that. What would you see in Disneyland, Jim?
Given the ages of your kids, you're going to be spending a lot of time in
In Fantasyland.
Fantasyland.
Oh, Mr.
Yeah,
Toad. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there you go. Get to experience something that you can't do at another park. Please, it's August in Southern California. I'm hoping you're at either a Disneyland Resort hotel or you're somewhere close by on Harbor or Catella to go back to the pool. All right,
Oh, good point. Yeah, yeah. The heat in August will probably be more than you're used to in the UK.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Beyond that, take advantage of the fact that the park will no doubt be open from like 8 a.m. till midnight, or if not 1.
I hope
So,
everything will be back to normal then.
yeah.
Also, Greg writes, in February of 2024, planning
Mm-hmm.
a 2-week trip to Walt Disney World, staying on property with a 14-day ticket. However, we're also planning on a day at a water park, Universal, and Kennedy Space Center to go along with the rest of the days. So we'll probably end up with 2 full days in each of the 4 parks. By this time, the children will be 9 and 6. I last visited Walt Disney World in 1994.
Ooh,
Wow. So a lot will have changed.
there you go.
So here's some questions. Will 2
Mm-hmm.
days in each park give us a less frantic chance to experience a lot of what is on offer? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what I would recommend. Also, that'll give you time to take breaks in the middle of the day.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Is there mileage in making sure we do some attractions that are similar in Disneyland to relieve some pressure on this trip? Or is this missing the point that a lot of these attractions have rigor appeal and we may want to ride them again anyhow, plus some are subtly different? Can you think, Jim, of any ride that you wouldn't ride again in Disney World because you experienced it in Disneyland?
Circling back to Evie and Henry,
Yeah.
it's the notion of, remember how kids will watch the same movie 3,000 times? The
Yep.
notion of, well, we went on, Snow White's Enchanted Adventure at Disneyland. Why would you want to do, well, actually, that ride doesn't
Yeah,
exist
another
at
dark
Disney World
ride in
anymore.
Fantasyland, yeah. Winnie
Yeah.
the Pooh, right? Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh, yeah. But if your kids are vocal at all, this really isn't an option. It's
Outside
like,
of Dumbo, I really
Yeah.
can't think of, and the teacups, I really can't think of anything that is maybe Buzz Lightyear, so similar in Toy Story Mania, so
Yeah.
similar in the parks that, there's relatively few attractions that are so similar in the parks that I would skip them. I was going to say, if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean in Disneyland,
Mhm.
don't do the one in Walt Disney World because it's basically the shortened version of it.
Mhm.
But even then, it's worth seeing, I think.
Yeah.
The next question is, when is the best time to actually start planning properly? I've already started looking at what days to go based on historic crowd data. My wife thinks I'm mad. Yes.
Mhm.
3 years out is a little early.
Yeah.
I would say, a year out. And at that point,
Mm-hmm.
a year out, you will know basically what hotels are going to be open and available and things like that, and would have a better sense of crowd stuff there. The next question is it worth using fast passes for things like Phantasmic if we went in the evening of a rest day? Assuming fast passes come back, and that's the only thing you need it for on that particular day, yeah, it makes sense. In fact, it's an easy way to get reserve seating at Phantasmic. The other option, assuming it comes back as well, is something like a dinner package that typically goes along with the nighttime shows. You have to eat dinner anyway, and if you want to bop into the park for a meal, even for lunch, and then do the Phantasmic package, that's another way of doing it. How will the rollout of Genie affect the way touring plans works? That's a great question. We're going to have to see, and hopefully we'll know. We should know here in the next couple of months what features are and pricing and things like that. But for right now, I think even Disney can't tell you how it's exactly going to work, and it may change by 2024 too. So we'll see. All right, cool. But Greg, keep in touch with your planning questions on that. All right, here's a question from John, and I love this question. As it currently stands, Mickey Mouse will finally enter the public domain as of January 1st, 2024, which is about 2.5 years out. While that may seem a long way off, I can also imagine a scenario for Disney in which that date is terrifyingly close. I doubt Disney will want this to happen. So my question is, how is Disney preparing for losing its hold on Mickey Mouse? Jim, is the answer anything other than a lot of money being donated to political campaigns?
Disney did back in the day the Sonny Bono law.
That was the last extension. Yeah. That only got them to January 1st of 2024.
You've expressed your love of the Paul Ruddish Mickey Mouse shorts just a number of times. You've quoted Potato Land. Those were launched back in June of 2013. And I've heard folks within the company argue that this was a deliberate effort on Disney's part it's like, look, this is a new iteration of a classic character. So we would argue that as the copyright for Mickey Mouse, the specific Mickey Mouse, pie-eyed mouse that Walt introduced in 1928 is sliding. On the other hand, this one that was introduced in 2013, an entirely different animal. And that a nuanced look at copyright would suggest that, yes, okay, you want to go pie-eyed Mickey? That's yours. This one is ours. And if you do something that's too close to this one, the might of the Disney legal department will fall on you like wolves. Just in the past 6 months or so, we've had Warner Brothers do a brand new feature film with the CG versions of not only Tom and Jerry, but later next month, we're going to see a brand new version of Space Jam that features the Looney Tune characters.
Right.
All of these major corporations are doing interesting new things, whether it's changing the look, taking a 2D traditionally animated character and doing them CG or that sort of thing, but sort of positioning. I mean, these mega corporations that now own all of these things, the notion of approaching copyright to the effect of, yes, old version of character is out of copyright, new version of character is not. And let's see the outside operators try to use these characters where a Disney can take you into court and argue, yes, you're using Mickey, and yes, his copyright is available. But on the other hand, you're too close to what we're doing with the character now. And with Disney having the larger pile of money when it comes to lawyers, you can effectively tie people up in court for decades.
I would be surprised if Mickey Mouse actually enters the public domain. I think that, to your point, the thing that would enter the public domain would be the Steamboat Willie version.
There you go.
Of Mickey Mouse, right? Which is super primitive, right? And people would recognize it as Mickey Mouse, but it would be a primitive version of it.
But if you take Paul Ruddish's version of Mickey Mouse and put it next to Steamboat Willie, there's enough commonality, but enough difference that really is going to make things difficult for somebody who's trying to use that character after it's slid into the public domain.
And I think that might be the argument that Disney makes, that this particular character, this iteration of Mickey Mouse from 1928 will enter the public domain, but it's so close to what we're doing now that brand confusion is unavoidable, right?
There you go.
And because it's unavoidable, you shouldn't allow it to happen. But I think here's the interesting thing. So it comes up in 2024, which means President Biden would have to sign any legislation that would extend the copyright. And there is a midterm election coming up in 2022. I think we should start asking this question to political candidates, like, are you in favor of Mickey Mouse going into the public domain? And if not, why not? Like what's for me the interesting distinction is if Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn can enter the public domain, why other than the fact that it makes Disney a lot of money, like what's the principle behind which Mickey Mouse doesn't enter the public domain, but other characters do? Right. Again, if it setting aside the pile of money thing.
By the way, I don't know if you're familiar with the show Adam Ruins Everything.
Never heard of it yet.
Wonderful show that explores all of these commonly held beliefs that are wrong. And Adam actually does a wonderful episode where he talks about how the Walt Disney Company, because of the Sonny Bono law, has so screwed up the notion of copyright and the very thing about there are these ghost copyrights where the effect of people are afraid to do things with certain characters because frankly, there's a question about, well, is that in the public domain? Is that not in the public domain?
Yeah.
And which perhaps explains why we're getting a Snow White live action reboot.
Oh, that's right. That's coming up too, right?
1937.
It's close enough.
Yep.
All right, here's a question from Dan. Next March, I will have the pleasure of chaperoning a high school band trip to Disney World. Assuming Rise of the Resistance is still running the same way next March, what are the strategies you might use to try and get a boarding group for approximately 40 people? Would you have 40 different people all trying to get a boarding group for everyone? That would seem the easiest, but can the system handle a group of 40? Dan, I don't think that would be my strategy because you have to select everyone in your friends and family list, and that by itself would take more seconds than you have. So for reference right now, at 7 a.m., all of the boarding groups are generally gone in 9 seconds or less. And generally, they're gone within 7 seconds. You can't go through all the steps and select 40 people from your friends and family list inside of 7 seconds. It's just not possible. What I would do is this. I would have 10 groups of 4 or 8 groups of 5. Or 13 groups of 3 and 1 individual loner out there. No, but have a fairly large number of small people group together, and have as many of them try for boarding groups as possible. And then I would go to either group sales or someone at guest relations for anybody that didn't get in and say, okay, I brought a group of 40 people here for my band trip. 32 of us got boarding groups. The other 8 didn't. What can you do for us, or can you help us out here? And Disney should be able to work with you on that. That's exactly what I would do.
One other wrinkle, and I just literally learned about this from a friend who lives down in Orlando. 7 o'clock in the morning, boarding groups go clean, 9 seconds. But the interesting thing is that at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, supposedly they throw open the boarding group again. That at this point, they have a better handle on what's gone on for the day, whether there have been delays or suddenly that they have more availability opening up during the day. So,
and the 1 o'clock group stays open much longer, like many minutes.
Then the key is to be in a part of the park where the Wi-Fi signal is ridiculously strong. Because
over by Disney Junior, yeah.
Yes, that's it exactly. I've also heard there's kind of a sweet spot between Tower of Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster. I guess there's the ice cream stand there is a really good place to take.
KR&R, is that the, yeah. Okay.
I believe so. But yeah, just keep that in your back pocket as well, that if group sales or, there's no luck there, that you still have folks who are trying to get on this thing.
Oh yeah, if you're over by that part of Rock and Roller Coaster, that could be the same Wi-Fi as over by Animation Courtyard. Yeah, okay, that would make sense.
That could be.
You don't want to be as on Hollywood Boulevard because there's too many people on there.
Trust me, 40 kids at a band, you don't want 24 of them to get on the ride, the other 16 to be grousing on the bus ride back.
Exactly. I think guest relations would help them out.
Well, here's hoping.
All right, last question is from Lisa, who says, I thought you might be interested in my very short story about meeting Walt Disney when I was a small child. My parents lived in Southern California, and they adopted me from South Korea in 1959. The same year, they took me to Disneyland for the first time. And until we moved away in 1970, we made yearly or twice yearly trips. On one of those trips, my mom, my friend Karen, and I went into an attraction that we had never seen before, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. We may have been the only people in the theater besides a man and a woman who were sitting together. When the show was over, my mom recognized that the man was Walt Disney. She tore a page from our ticket book and told me to go ask for his autograph. Karen and I walked up to him and he signed the page. I don't know the exact date of this encounter, but because the attraction was new to us, because Disney was present, I'm guessing it was around the time of its opening in 1965. As to the identity of the woman, I have no idea, but when I've told the story, I've always said it was a blonde woman, and I secretly like to think that it was Mary Blair. That is a fantastic story.
Glenn, I actually reached out to Lisa, and it turns out there's actually potential validity in her Mary Blair theory, because Great Moments of Mr. Lincoln opens July 18th, 1965. Her family's visit would have to have been late July or August. And we can narrow it even further, because it would have had to have been a Saturday or Sunday, because what Walt would typically do is after he finishes work week, Friday nights he'd drive down to Disneyland, and then he'd basically set up shop in the Disney family apartment above the firehouse in Town Square. So 1964 New York World's Fair is still going on at this time. In fact, Disney actually built two versions of Lincoln. So one could open at Disneyland summer of 65 before the fair closed.
Oh, nice.
But on the other hand, Small World was just a one-off, and Mary had worked on that, but they had already started construction on the show building. And in fact, they broke ground at the back of Fantasyland in June of 65. So given that Walt would spend his weekends down at the park, just walking around looking for things to plus or checking on projects, it's entirely plausible that, Walt reached out to Mary and said, "Hey, I'm going to Disneyland this weekend. Do you want to come with me and check out the Small World construction site? Because we still have to talk about what we're doing with the exterior of this building." And to give you some idea how loose leaf that project was, there's this famous story of Mary is in the model shop, and she's working on the exterior of the Disneyland version of A Small World. And she goes to clear off her workspace, which is now covered with the miniature trees that they had envisioned planting in front of Small World. And so Mary, just because she's, clear off her workspace, temporarily puts the trees on the top of the model for Disneyland's version of Small World. It's at this exact moment that Walt walks into the model shop, looks at it and goes, "Hey, that's cool. Let's do that with the real building." And it's like, what? The trees at the top of the building?
I need a room for my coffee cup. What?
No, that's it exactly. And to this day, that's why there are trees at the top of that building. So that was done on the fly in the fall of 65. So as I was telling Lisa, it's like, yeah, you're probably right. It was probably Mary, and Walt was probably showing off, "Hey, look at the New York show. We got this one here. Now let's go look at the, where we're going to put the other New York show."
Yeah, this is a great story.
Thanks to Lisa for sharing it.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, Jim continues the history of Toy Story Mania.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Every story you love, every invention that moves you, every idea you wished was yours, all began as nothing. Just a blank page with a blinking cursor, asking a simple question. What do you see? Great ideas start on Mac. Find out more on apple.com/Mac.
All right, listen up, nacho chips. Quiet down, crispy potatoes. This is the moment Velveeta's been preparing you for, and you're not about to crack under pressure. Today's the day to go all in on the drip. Velveeta's Heat and Eat Queso is the MVP of any game day spread, so stick by them, and you'll be golden. Now get out there and make delicious history. No tailgate party is complete without Velveeta.
And we're back. All right, Jim, when we left off on the last episode, we had talked about the Paul Bunyan Buffeteria, which would serve enormous portions of food to people that they could split between them because the chefs were used to cooking for Paul Bunyan. And by the way, I got a number of emails from people who sent in photos of themselves eating truly gargantuan pieces of food, like disturbingly large blueberry muffins,
Aye.
and steaks and other things. It was really astounding what this country can produce when it puts its mind to it.
What is the Clyban rule? Never eat anything bigger than your head?
You say that, but I've had pastries in Animal Kingdom that were bigger than my head, and I don't think that rule completely applies when you're on vacation.
Oh,
I think
okay.
there's an addendum, a codicil,
There we
if you
go.
will. Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Anyway,
So,
all right. So we left off there, right? So
mhm.
this was like what, the fall of 55?
Yeah,
Okay. And Walt's trying to like please Mickey Mouse fans.
the show had just debuted in the fall on ABC.
Mhm.
It's a weekly strip running Monday through Friday, and people are showing up at Disneyland. Like, where's Mickey Mouse? Where's
Where's
Mickey
Mickey
Mouse?
Mouse? Yeah.
And again, as we mentioned, he had previously toyed with the idea of building Mickey Mouse headquarters out on Tom Sawyer's Island. But that wasn't going to fly because you have to drain the Rivers of America to do that. Likewise, you can't borrow the costumes from Ice Capades anymore because Ice Capades is on the road with its Disney costumes.
Right.
So now it's all about getting workable versions of the character costumes for the Disney park that Walt himself has built. And this takes years. I mean, there's 4 years of trial and error, trying to find that sweet spot where you had a costume that had a great likeness of the character, but at the same time was comfortable for the cast member to wear and still had good sight lines. And Walt initially assigns John Hench to the project, and John in turn ropes in Disney Studios' costume department. These folks are used to making things that look good in front of a camera rather than something practical for a teenager to wear when they're working a shift in a hot, Southern California theme park. You can look now, Google Disneyland character costumes from 59, 58, 60.
We've done this. It's nightmare fuel.
It's not just nightmare fuel. These things were cruel, Len. I mean, take for example, if you can find the outfits for the original set of Three Little Pigs, the heads were made out of rebar.
What?
Seriously, the stuff that they actually sculpted to make Splash Mountain out of and then sprayed with gunite. Each of these head pieces weighed 70 pounds apiece. The poor cast members would go out and play the pigs in the park and would get severe neck and back aches just a few minutes after being on stage.
I'm looking at these. These are massive costumes.
Yeah.
Just spraying them with gunite. So you've got chicken wire over rebar sprayed with gunite. Yeah.
No, it's
nice.
just ridiculous. So anyway, Walt immediately realized that John means well, but he needs help on this project. So he ropes in veteran Disney animator Bill Justice to get some other ideas on the table for the character costumes. And Justice recalled in his 1992 memoir, Justice for Disney, Walt once told me, other places have thrill rides and bands and trains, but we have our characters. Disney then went on to say, Bill, always remember that we don't want to torture the people who are wearing these character costumes. Keep in mind the cast members inside of these things have to be as comfortable as possible. So always try to use the lightest weight material when building these things and make sure that the character costumes have as much ventilation as possible. And the nice thing is that with Walt, his first concern was the safety and comfort of his Disneyland cast members. His second concern was the look of each individual costume, making sure that the character likeness was as accurate as possible. So it takes 6 years from the opening of Disneyland to finally get.
Wow.
But by the summer of 61, Disneyland Park now finally has a dedicated set of 37 character costumes. Now, mind you, they made 3 copies of each costume, Len. So there was one could be in for cleaning, one could be in for repair, but there'd still be one costume available for a cast member to put on and go out and interact with guests or be part of the parade.
So 37 is not a multiple of 3. It was all like an extra Mickey Mouse costume just in case.
Actually, it's 3 times 37. So what are they working the math? They're 111.
Oh, sorry. So sorry.
Yeah, 111 costumes. Okay.
Wow.
So
okay.
The average cost of producing one of these things was $50,000. Teenagers who are putting on these outfits are reminded what you wear now costs roughly 10 times what your parents' home cost. All right. So, just be careful out there. But Walt put so much time, effort, and money in the creation of these character costumes that it's just, as they're arriving at his family fun park, that they be promoted like they were a new ride or show at Disneyland. Right. So summer of 61, you open a paper in Los Angeles and there's a full page ad that reads, "We're waiting to meet you at Disney. New fun for 61, 37 of your favorite Disney characters in person." In the same window of time, we get the Fantasy in the Sky fireworks, becomes a nightly offering during the summer. This is also the time when they completed the extension of the monorail to the Disneyland Hotel. So today it's a transportation system, but It's a monorail now extended to the Disneyland Hotel. Now travel twice as far at twice the speed in the newly extended Disneyland monorail. Now 2.5 miles of heart-pounding thrills to the Disneyland Hotel and back.
The monorail.
It was a different age, Len. Yeah,
Things were simpler back then, Jim. The monorail is thrill ride. I mean, it's an attraction, no doubt. We've talked about this before, but a thrill ride. I'm not sure. All right.
Okay. So anyway, Walt now has his dedicated characters in the park, which include Mickey Mouse. But the interesting thing, he's still getting comments from guests, and to the effect of, well, wait a minute, Mr. Toad's got his own ride, so does Dumbo, so does Snow White and Peter Pan. Why doesn't Mickey have his own ride at Disneyland? And Walt starts to give this idea some thought. And so,
valid point.
September of 1962, he's sitting down with Fletcher Markle, who's a Canadian journalist, and Walt starts to talk about this idea he's developing, which is going to take a Disney short from the 30s, The Orphan Benefit. Actually, that one went, a black and white version of the story went out into theaters August of 1934. 7 years later, studio revisits the story, redoes it in color. What Walt decides he wants to do at Disneyland is build a cartoonish take on a vaudeville theater. And the idea is visitors to his family fun park would be seated in the orchestra section. But as they turned around and looked up, the mezzanine and the balcony would be filled with tunes, particularly mechanical tune figures.
Okay.
And then the curtain would open, and there on stage, you had mechanical versions of Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Clara Cluck, and Horace Horsecollar, who would sing and perform magic tricks. And as each of these numbers would end, the tunes in the balcony would applaud or boo or throw things at the stage.
It's like Mickey's PhilharMagic meets Muppets.
There you go. That's it exactly.
Okay.
Sounds like a fun idea. Problem is, this is literally the infancy of audio animatronics. I mean...
Oh, these weren't going to be live performers. These were going to be animatronic.
Animatronics. And it's fall of 1962. We're still 9 months out from the Tiki Room opening. It will be another 10 months beyond that before Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, Magic Skyway, Small
the U.S.
World
government hasn't declassificlated enough military technology
that's it
for this to
exactly.
happen yet. Okay. We haven't even built the missiles.
That's right. When are you going to get Lois still get that Polaris missiles technology? So that's it exactly. And for WDI, what Walt was asking for, that not only the animatronics on stage, but the characters up on the balcony. I mean, this was the Imagineers equivalent of putting a man on the moon. Sort of. There were so many technological breakthroughs that would have to to happen before this would go forward. And so Walt dies in December of 1966. Right. And the folks who were left behind, longtime executives like Card Walker and Dick Irvine, they want to honor Walt's legacy, continue with the ideas he's left behind, but at the same time, Card and Dick want to be practical. So as the Orphans Benefit show idea moves through WED's development process, the idea of the balcony and mezzanine levels of the old vaudeville theater filled with robotic Disney characters, that falls by the wayside. And in its place rises the Mickey Mouse Revue, which has Mickey as the maestro of an animatronic orchestra, where you've got, King Louie from the Jungle Book playing timpani, and, title character from Winnie the Pooh is playing a kazoo, as all of these animatronic versions of well-known characters played down in the pit. Up on stage, the stars of some of the studio's better-known short subjects and feature films, Snow White, Cinderella, Three Little Pigs, they appear in brief musical numbers.
As animatronics.
As animatronics. But
right.
This is put into development at the same time another very ambitious audio animatronic show is put into works, and that's the Hall of Presidents. When you're putting together a show about a bunch of stuffy old white guys, audio animatronics from the late 60s, early 70s, are capable of very limited movement.
I mean, to be fair, James Buchanan was also capable of very limited movement.
Well, no, that's it exactly.
Okay.
And, I say this is a stuffy old white man. It's a perfect medium for
people aren't going to notice a single thing different.
No, that's it exactly. Whereas if you're recreating cartoon characters who, squash and stretch and, do all this athletic stuff, animatronics is the exact wrong medium. And this is why Magic Kingdom opens at the Walt Disney World Resort, October of 1971. Hall of Presidents is acclaimed almost immediately as a technological marvel, whereas Mickey Mouse Revue is like, that's cute. It's something you want to see once. So that's why literally less than 9 months into its run at the Fantasyland Theater, Mickey Mouse Revue closes September 14th, 1980, gets packed up, shipped off to Japan, where it then becomes an opening day attraction at that theme park, opening in April of 83. But this doesn't stop people from asking, where's the Mickey ride? So, but the Imagineers is now like, okay, so we learned our lesson. Don't want to do Mickey in a sit-down show, just to see a version of Mickey whose feet are nailed to the floor.
Right.
So they begin to draw up the ideas like, okay, a ride-through, where you quickly see the character. So 70s and 80s, we get a couple of different concepts going forward. We get Mickey's Madhouse, which was a tribute to the black and white Mickey shorts of the 30s, and this was going to be a combination dark ride and old-fashioned carnival funhouse. There was then Circus Mickey, where Mickey was supposed to be the ringmaster of this 3-ring circus that featured dozens of Disney characters. This one was pretty ambitious, Len. It was supposed to be something along the size and scale of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Wow.
Then there was Mickey's Movie Land. They actually brought Ward Kimball out of retirement to design this thing, and it was supposed to be a ride-through that explained the filmmaking process. And
Ooh.
we get Mickey's PhilharMagic, which opened to the Magic Kingdom in October of 2003, and with clones of this 3D movie eventually in Hong Kong, Disneyland Paris, Tokyo, and California Adventure. Well, Mickey's name is part of the title of PhilharMagic. This is really Donald Duck
It's
Show.
Donald Duck Show, yeah.
Yeah. And I know right now there's a whole bunch of folks that are yelling at their laptops or iPhones going, well, what about Mickey's Runaway Railway? And it's like, well, yeah, that opened in March of last year, great acclaim, only to close 10 days later after the pandemic and after the entire Walt Disney World Resort got shut for a number of months. The Imagineer that was originally wrote herd on this project, the recently retired Kevin Rafferty, spent a good chunk of the early 2000s working in an entirely different Mickey Mouse themed ride-through attraction. This one was supposed to make use of those pull-string cannons that guests used when they were visiting Disney Quest in Orlando, Chicago, when they did that Pirates of the Caribbean Battle for the Buccaneer Gold thing. And they were going to marry that with a ride-through shooting gallery.
So at this time, was it a physical shooting gallery, or was it virtual, or was it laser-based, like Buzz Lightyear?
If you look at Toy Story Midway Mania, this was the setup. You had your pull string cannons. You rolled through environments that would have some physical props, but 90% of it would drop you in front of a giant screen, and you'd be firing at targets, and Mickey, Donald, Goofy would be running around and don't shoot at us. But here's the thing. Management had signed off on the idea. They had agreed that this would be part of an expansion of Paradise Pier at California Adventure. A budget and construction timetable was in the works when in January of 2006, the Walt Disney Company announces that it is acquiring Pixar Animation Studios for $7.4 billion.
Aha, and all of a sudden it's like, we just bought this very hot animation company. We'll always have Mickey Mouse, but let's do something with Pixar. All right.
That pretty much sums up what happened, Len. And on the next and final installment of the series, we'll talk about how they took all the work that had been done on Mickey's Midway Mania and reworked that to be a Toy Story thing, which, by the way, not to bring these things full circle, that was also supposed to have seasonal overlays. Remember when that was going to have a Halloween-themed shooting game and a Christmas-themed shooting game?
People moved on, yeah.
Yeah. So again, Len, I just want to explain why my heart is broken. And
that's one reason, right? Right there.
There we go. So.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for the Disney Dish show today. Please head on over to disneydish.bandcamp.com, where you'll find exclusive shows never before heard on iTunes, including a new show on the history of Discovery Island in Walt Disney World. On next week's show, we're going to finish up that history of Toy Story Mania, and you can find more of Jim at jimhillmedia.com and more of me, Len, at touringplans.com. We are produced fabulously by Aaron Adams, who will be sharing his recipe for sumac rubbed lamb with minty artichokes at the 2021 Castroville Food and Wine Artichoke Festival, starting Saturday, July 24th at 10 a.m. at the Monterey County Fairgrounds in beautiful downtown Monterey, California. While Aaron's doing that, please go into iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We'll see you on the next show.